Good evening, my friends, and welcome back to the next episode of Haven Moon, the Investigatum Up, the Mystlike, François Roussel, giving a masterclass in how to create vibey entertainment. Last time out, we were looking at this canon, and looking at how we might be able to get more signal out of the canon. And I do notice that, obviously, so we can have the switch can turn 90 degrees, right? And I tried turning them all to the left as if they're a valve, which we're going to open. And that hasn't quite worked. Obviously, these are not totally symmetrical, right? Or rotationally symmetrical. So they've got this line, and they've got this... I don't know, button, light, you know, it's not a button, but I don't know, I don't think it's any kind of indicator. But some of these I've now moved perpendicular to that, and some I have not. Now, in fact, it's the first three that I've changed, right, and I've moved those to be perpendicular. Okay. Here's the thing, though. I think the first step of this puzzle is, in fact, to go back to the telescope, and I want to take a screenshot of the array so that we can number up the masts, because actually the location of the masts might be important. I also need to obviously load up my board, but thankfully that doesn't take terribly long. So, on our way to the telescope. So one thing with the motion sickness, certainly I find the speed of your character makes a big difference. But also the straightness of the running makes a big difference as well. So I'll try where I can to only really use the run button when I'm just sort of pointing in a straight line rather than trying to run around corners and things. That seems a little bit of an error. Now, you will notice that this diagram has this in a particular orientation. In fact, I believe it has it in the initial orientation that it was in. And each of these points, this one, this one, this one, and this one are your pivot points. Thus enabling you to get to anywhere in the array. So, I think we kind of need to go through and we need to see what each of those array points does for you. Do we really have to go back and test each one individually, though? We'll see. Let's do the first few. And let's see if there's a pattern to it. Incidentally, I wanted to call out one particular design mechanic, which I really love. Now, in these games, we call these games knowledge-based puzzlers, right? Because it's not about finding which key goes in which door and so on. And it was I felt it was one of the limitations of Quern, was the fact that it was very much a bit of an item hunt kind of game. Now, do we actually want to start with all of these off? So if we start with all of them... No, that's moving that to the left. So we move that one to the right. Yeah, sorry, yeah. No, yeah, we want everything onto the right. If everything's to the right, that is definitely all off. Interesting. So, this is to the right. That's perpendicular. 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 And perpendicular. Right. So I have a feeling that that's all of those perpendicular, right? And that gives us 3. That gives us 3. Now, our current setup is... Oh, our current setup is actually literally how this is sort of drawn at the moment, right? So all of this being perpendicular currently is giving you 3. So let's rotate that one. Actually, let's rotate all 4 of these and then we can get to the others. Yeah. So where we need to do is... So that one's already been done. We turn that one perpendicular. Turn this one perpendicular. Great. And now we're moving over to this way. So this one's already been done, as you can see. That one we turn. And then we are going to need to have this piece... Ah, no, do you know what? We need that one rotated 90 degrees initially. Which I believe is that one there. Yeah, great. And that'll get us all round to these. So that's already in the perpendicular position. That one isn't. And that one isn't. And that one over there needs to be changed as well. So flip this one back and flip one of the other ones back as well. So we flip back that one. And we flip that one, I think. Yep. And I think this is actually going to return us to the starting condition of the puzzle. Yeah? The answer to which is not flip every switch. Yep, so what we have is we have 0. So if everything is P, that is 0. Okay. So let's start by flipping these 4. Right, so we've got 4 which are now in the parallel direction and 1 which is in the perpendicular. And that's making it oscillate from 0 to 2. Okay. So are some of these working against each other then? Or some of these are adding instability? Like, let's turn these back one at a time. Okay. Let's go back to full screen. But we're going to investigate these 4 first. So now we're stable at 1.5. Right? We're now stable at 1.5. If that one's the only one that's on, what happens if you just have one? Ah, it's just a big old wiggle. So this one, just on its own, adds the instability. So we're trying to find, I guess, the masts that give you instability, is it? Maybe. So let's kind of keep a note. So we want to have on, and we want that one off. Right? Maybe. So we've put those 3 on, and we've got stable power at 1.5. So if each mast is worth a half, how many masts do we have? 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 masts. If each mast is worth a half, we should be able to get to 5, which is the power requirement that we need. So let's go and try some of these masts then. Let's do this one, and we spin that one around the end there. Right. So that one's staying off. Let's have a look at these guys down here. So 1, 2, 3, and 4. Okay, if we still have stable power there, we then go to the next section. We still have stable power. Excellent. Right. So that's on, that's on. So let's try that one. And this one. Now I'm assuming one of those is Duff. No, those are fine as well, but they don't seem to have added much in the way of power, to be honest. But now let's go and get the final 2 masts. We need like 1 more to be working for us. I'm going to leave that one for now. I'm going to take this one. So I reckon it's going to be the furthest one. So is it that we want 10 masts on, 2 masts off? Maybe. Hey, that looks like we've got enough power now. Speed of light. Achievement unlocked. Okay. So, can we now get into the cannon itself? No. Does it give us enough power? Well, what we should now have, I suppose, is we now have power to the teleporters. Or maybe we have enough power to be able to get to the house. Maybe. I realised I totally didn't finish my point earlier about what I was saying about Quern and the items. So I felt one of the things that limited Quern a little bit was the item gathering. The trying out different combinations of keys and different doors and so on. And this is often a limitation of adventure games, particularly. I really like the fact that, yes, this kind of has items. We're currently carrying 2 keys. But when you interact with something, if you have the correct item, it just uses it. You don't have to worry about it in the inventory. It just goes ahead and does it. So no, that's not going to work. Okay. Okay, we now have the cannon set up, though. Okay, so what is the next thing we have to do? If we confer with the notebook, right? So to take shelter during the storms, I built a house on a high structure which is reinforced with a thick metallic shield. The house can be opened and closed using a pneumatic system that can be activated with a special key. For safety reasons, the activated system and the code of the key safe are hidden. The island's teleporter can also be disabled from the house. Fine. Now, okay. Discovered to circulate matter and energy beam, able to trigger the teleporter, allowing instant travel from one to another. Required amount of energy for teleportation is so high I had to dedicate part of the antenna grid to power this system. So we probably now have power to the teleporters. Here's how the teleporters work. The beam is positioned using concentrators that must be oriented towards each other, taking into consideration the bounces of the beam in the magnetosphere. To find good orientation coordinates, I added a beam optimal path detection system to the telescope. It indicates which coordinates to use. Just aim the telescope at the destination's teleporter and search for its emitted signal. Teleportation worked really well for the Cannon Island and the House Island, although it seems the storms interfered with the Cannon Island's telescope signal. So I think we're trying to get to the house via the teleporter, but the Cannon Island, we're not going to get telescope signal. But we are expecting to get telescope signal from House Island. Now the obvious thing to try and look at first... Okay, look, here's signal. The obvious thing to try and look at first is Laboratory Island, which we know has a teleporter on it. And we know is not terribly far, so should be bouncing reasonably high. Looking for any kind of bounce on this dial here. Noting, of course, that the teleporter itself is actually slightly to the left in terms of bearing. Then, oh, did you see it? Hey, there we go. So it was pretty close, so you do have to be quite high with it. There we go. Right. So, let's make a note of that one. So, Laboratory Island is how you test the system so that you know how it works. So it's 00067. Now we've not fully worked out how these controls work yet, but if I go 00067. Okay. And we're now on Laboratory Island. Excellent. Now obviously the train isn't here. That's fine. So we can teleport back easily enough. So that's just to sort of check that we know how it works, I guess. So now we need to find the house signal. How high is the magnetosphere? Is that an important aspect of the calculation? Because look, when we look at this map, yeah, we are travelling 1, 2, basically 3 circles away. Right, which if we were to draw that, what we've got is we've got an emitter here. Yeah. Yeah, this is our x-axis. It's going to bounce off the magnetosphere and down onto Laboratory Island. Okay. If that distance is 3... and for 3, you needed an angle of 67. We can work out the height of the magnetosphere there, yeah? 67 is basically 2/3. Ooh, okay, this is where we get a little bit mathsy, and I've not done this in a long, long time. I've not done any geometry in a long, long time. We're talking about 20 years since I last did any geometry like this. But tan of 30, right, is going to equal 1.5 over h. Now, if we're then trying to hit the house, yeah, and the house is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 away, yeah, the house is twice the distance. We need to work out an angle that's going to do that. And for that, you have a right angle here. And for that, you're going to need tan of theta, call it theta, this one, is going to be 3 over h. So therefore, tan of 30 over 1.5 is equal to tan of theta over 3. So move the 3 over to there, divide 3 by 1.5, you're basically doing 2. So it's tan theta is 2 tan of 30, right? And this gives you the opposite angle, yeah? Tan of 30 degrees is something like there's a well-known identity for that one. Do you know what? I do not remember it off the top of my head. .577. Nah, there's a nicer way to express that. It's root 3 over 3. Okay. So that's fine. So, okay, well, that's fine. We're just going to say times 2 on that one. That equals 1.54. And we're going to do an arctan. Arctan 1.155. In degrees, literally, who uses radians? 49 degrees that comes out to. So this one's going to be like 50 or 51. We're going to want like 50 or 51 degrees. We also need the bearing to be correct as well, right? Hang on, let me just quickly turn on this monitor. So we need the bearing to be roughly there as well. So, what do we have? We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3. 4, depending on which one you're going to be going towards. So, 5, 3, well, if we say arc, yeah, so that's like an arc, it's simple actually, isn't it? It's opposite over adjacent, so it's arctan 3 over 5, arctan 3.5 over 5. Arctan 3.5 over 5, 3.5 over 5 is, what is that, 70%? Arctan 0.7 in degrees. 35 degrees. Beep, beep. We'll try 35, something like that. So, give me a bearing of 35 and a principal angle of like 50. Let's see where we go there. Not close enough to actually get a signal. Okay, okay. Which one am I probably more accurate on? I think I'm less accurate on this one. So let's move it to 30 first, but that's not changing anything on the signal there. We'll move this to 45. Anything on the signal scope? So let's move that back to 35. Shoot. I thought I was going to get it with the power of maths there for a minute, but alas, no dice, no dice. It's definitely going to have to be less than 67 because this island is further away. Wait, no, the other angle was 49. So this angle needs to be 31? No, that makes 80. 41, not 50. We might have been pointing it too high. Okay, not quite there still. It's got to be somewhere around this region, right? But yeah, the signal scope is really not giving us anything right now. I feel like this has got to be the next part of the puzzle, right? Because we've turned the grid array on. The signal from the laboratory is super strong. I mean, unless it's, unless it really is, like, just a lot further round. Okay, we try to do the maths very roughly. Like, we could try and do the maths more accurately. But on the other hand, how accurate do we need to be? Let's go back to a bearing of 0. How accurate do we actually need to be with this? So this was 67. Just so that I know how big a target we're trying to hit to get the signal scope to move at all. Okay, so there it goes. So if I move that 5 degrees off, right, so basically, every degree is worth 1 on the scope. Wow. So as long as you're within 10 degrees, and that's 10 degrees square, right? So as far as, you know, your solid angle goes, that's not huge, right? Because if you've got 10 degrees around in a circle, you've got 1/36th, but then you've got 1/36th going the opposite direction as well, so you actually have like a very, very small thing on the overall sphere. But 10 degrees, if you were reasonably confident that the island is between... Like, because it's definitely not 45 degrees out that way, right? But the closest it could be is... That the closest angle would be 1, 2, 3, 4 and a half and 2. Arctan 2 over 4 and a half. So arctan 2 over 4 and a half is what is that? That's 4 over 9. No, I need arctan of 4 over 9, not arctan 4 divided by 9. So okay, so 24 degrees is like the minimum it could be. Which means we will see it at 33 or less. Now we know that 67, it has to be less than 67. Yeah, so if I look at 58, right, now what did I reckon it was? I believe it's actually 41. But we know it has to be less than 67 for sure. Now here's the thing, if you're 1 degree off in the horizontal and 1 degree off in the vertical, that's actually going to give you two things that are wrong, right? So if we are going to scan this, we should probably only scan it in 5 degree increments. We're just looking for any movement on the dial. I don't think it would. I don't think it could possibly go lower, right? Because then it's not going to bounce off the magnetosphere at all. Well, there we go. Well, we've scanned past 45 now, and we know it has to be at a shallower angle than 45. Because look, 45 will take you all the way over in like that direction. Yeah. Like 1, 2, 3. Yeah. So that's not it. So it feels like the signal at the house isn't on for some reason. There's the laboratory. House going to be somewhere in that direction. Like, I like the puzzle. I just kind of feel like I'm being tricked into using maths and you're not supposed to be using maths. I don't know. Am I overthinking this problem? Like, the teleporters are very much on now. Because we can teleport to Laboratory Island. No problem. Incidentally, I'm assuming the reason you can... I'm now coming around to the idea that I'm assuming the reason you can put 3 sets of coordinates in there is so that you can put the 3 sets of coordinates in and then you just select which one you're going to rather than it actually being 6 coordinates for an address. Right? Which is why it always seemed to move to whichever the last one we input was, rather than it having some kind of logical bearing on all of the numbers at the same time. Like, it's definitely got to be less than 67, otherwise your signal's bouncing to here, right? So it's got to be a shallower angle to get that bounce to go literally twice as far. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And I feel like the distances are not chosen accidentally. The fact that it's twice as far than this one is like a pretty good indication, right? Especially given that we've already established in the diary that the one on Canon Island doesn't work very well, so you have to do the coordinates manually. Having said that, shall we try Canon Island, because we know it's basically the same distance, so we just have to get the direction correct. And the direction basically looks like a 45-degree angle, doesn't it? You go to here, you go to here. So should we try a 45-degree angle and the same pitch? Now that's not going to work here, because the diary has literally told us that, that the telescope signal scope doesn't work. So let's try and put in... And we'll try and put it in, we'll put it in at the bottom, right? Because that's the order, the canon's always been at the bottom. Now the bearing of 0 is north, so 45 degrees off that is 315 degrees. So we're going to try 315 and see where that gets us. And pitch, because it's the same distance as Laboratory Island, we're going to assume the pitch is the same at 67. And let's see, did we get this right first time? No. It would have been cool, though. Would have been cool. Is that because it's not... Tell you what, though, that doesn't look like a 67-degree pitch, does it? No, because it's actually halved, isn't it? Which is weird, actually. Yeah, no, wait. That's weird, because, yeah, we've worked this out before, haven't we? That actually, if you put this to 45, it doesn't actually give you 45. It gives you half of 45. Because 45 is more like there. Yeah? So it's not actually giving you 45 at all. So why haven't we had to correct? Because in the telescope, you give it 0, the telescope points horizontally. You give it 90, the telescope points directly up. So the telescope picked up the signal at 67, but it can teleport when we input 67. But that's not actually 67 degrees. I'm assuming that is not part of the puzzle. I'm assuming that is not part of the puzzle. This is hard, man. This is hard. So, go back up here. Should we just take a print of this? Let's take a print of this so we don't have to keep coming backwards and forwards to it. Okay. Now look. From here, a 45-degree line would basically go like this. Yeah? No, don't add text to it. I want to move it. I want to move my line. But okay, basically it's 45. It might be slightly off. Distance-wise, it's bang on. Like the distance is the same. So the angle should very much be the same. Maybe it's slightly further than 45. Yeah, in which case we could try and do, like, rather than 315, we could try and do like 314, 313, you know. We could try and do a few different combinations there, but like 67 has got to be the angle, yeah, because the distance is just like spot on. Not quite. I'm assuming it's also going to be like somewhat of a round number as well, if you have to calculate it yourself. So I'm expecting like 310 or 300 maybe. But given how close it is to 45, we'll try each degree down to 310. But then we'll just jump straight to 305 and 300. But then again, that's probably how it's trying to catch you out. Right? See, I don't know about this, because by the time you are down at like 300, you're talking about it being 60 degrees rather than 45. And 60 degrees is like visually different to 45 degrees, right? Like you can visually see the difference between an equilateral triangle at 60 degrees and like half of a right angle at 45 degrees. So yeah, that's not the one. Well, what a conundrum, and a conundrum to end the episode on. But we've made good progress today. We've solved the array problem, and we have managed to get the teleporters working and worked out how the signal scope in the telescope works. Next time out, we're going to try and investigate a little bit further. Is the house signal working? Are we supposed to go to the canon? Is there anything else we can do at the array itself? Join us next time. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button if you enjoyed this episode. I will see you guys soon. Have a great week. Bye for now.